Boston Mayor Marty Walsh announced today that more than 100 companies in the city have now agreed to share payroll data as part of an effort to find wage gap solutions. The effort also involves free salary negotiation seminars for women, among other tools. But is it enough? Joining me to discuss are three women who were at today's event. Megan Costello, Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Women's Advancement. Good to see you, Megan. Beth Williams, the CEO of Roxbury Technology Corporation, also there. Nice to see you, Beth. Shirley Leung, of course, business columnist at the Boston Globe. Good to see you, Shirley. So how does payroll sharing help? I mean, is it unfair to say it's window dressing? How does it really help?
So I think the first thing to understand is the wage gap is very complex. It exists for a variety of reasons, and everybody has a role to play. So what we did today was we talked about the role that employers can and should play in closing the wage gap, but we're also doing the workshops and we're also working with the legislator. This is what is needed in order to close the wage gap. We need everybody at the information, but also everybody at the table, understanding that they all have a role and a responsibility in it.
But it would seem to me that the people who are most likely to give you the information are the ones that are doing the best by women at their workplace, and those who won't give you the information are the ones who don't want to be embarrassed by it. Is that not a fair assumption?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think that everybody has a wage gap, and so it's important to understand where the wage gaps exist within certain industries and certain companies. But I will say that many businesses are motivated, obviously, because it's the right thing to do, and it's important to pay women equally, but it's also economically smart. You know, when you pay women equally, you retain them, you have a more productive workforce.
Let's find out if a business owner
Yeah, let's talk to Beth.
So Beth, we all know, maybe we don't know. Everybody knows the wage gap nationally is in the high 70s. We're a little bit better here. We're in the low 80s for every dollar a man makes. Obviously, it's worse for women of color than it is for white women. But does collecting this payroll thing, I know it's a feel-good thing, but am I wrong to suggest all we're going to find out is that good places will release their data and places that are treating women poorly won't?
Well, I'm not really sure about that because I, signed up for the compact immediately. And quite frankly, I hadn't really thought about the wage gap until, the compact and this whole initiative came out.
What's the wage gap at your place?
The wage gap is probably very small right now, but I was surprised that there was one. And let me just, in all fairness, as a leader of an organization, particularly as an entrepreneur, you're focused, you hire people to manage HR and those kinds of things. And until, I'm focused on relationships, customer building, operations, and function. And I think most leaders, CEOs, C-level folks are focused on that. But then when it's brought to your attention, you kind of have to say, well, whoa, let me take a step back, look at the demographics of my organization, and really feel like, hey, so I think if there is some apprehension, you could be absolutely right. Folks don't want to be embarrassed. But it could be that people just really don't know until they start asking the questions.
So they're not all evildoers. They may just need their eyes open.
Absolutely.
But I think I've read in your columns, and you've written only about 1,000 pieces on this subject. What is it? 85% of board members and CEOs are white guys. Yeah. And so when that's not, they're going to hire people who look and are like them. That's the natural human impulse. So how do you fix this without fixing that?
Well, I think this initiative that the city's undertaking, which is really unique in the country.
Nobody else is doing it, from what I understand, correct?
It could be one of the single most important things.
Why do you think it's important?
That it's done because we are using data to figure out where the wage gap, where it's happening. And I think data is a very powerful tool. That's how you convince those people who don't think this matters. And then I think that if you can use data and it gets people to look at their, I don't think this is window dressing at all. I think all those companies, yes, they're probably good to women, but I think there are probably huge wage gaps within those companies that they don't realize. And I think by looking at the data, they will bring awareness, and it will start to change the culture of how women are paid and how men are paid.
So let me dampen your own enthusiasm, if I can, by quoting you back to you. You wrote this piece about how the Senate, I think, passed unanimously some equal pay measure, and it's in a mess in the House. And other than the new head of the Boston Chamber of Commerce, Susan Dorst, most of the other business groups have opposed an equal pay measure in 2016. What is it? Because they want to be able to discriminate? What's the rationale?
There's fear of litigation. There's fear of more regulation. I think it's a knee-jerk reaction to that. What I say to all those businesses, if you are serious about closing the wage gap, you should sign the compact. I mean, they have 108.
You're recruiting for us, Shirley.
They have 108 businesses, which is terrific, but it should be 1,008.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of businesses who could sign on. I like to see those members who are refusing to be part of pay equity
to sign on to this. So Beth, I interrupted. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, you know, we're the national leaders of this. I think that here in Boston, because I think, and out of it, and I said today in my remarks that you know, when President Obama sponsored the Working Families Summit, that was a key part of some of the work that we're doing here in Boston. And then we noticed that, you know, Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe had this whole Know Your Value tour going around, you know, telling women, you know, really speak up about what what you're worth, etc.
I want to get to what you're worth in negotiation in just a second. I just want to, one of the arguments goes by people who don't support legislation like that, or say it's not as bad as you say, suggest, hey, it's because so many women leave the workforce for a period of time because of family, because of kids, that sort of thing. So they get behind on the track. And so it's really not discrimination as such, it's life choices. Is there legitimacy in that?
I mean, I don't think so today. I mean, today technology, I mean, all of us have to learn how to put work down, quite frankly, you know, and I think whether you're a woman, a male, I mean, all of us are struggling with that. And so if I'm home with the baby, or if I'm home because of whatever reason, and that's the baby is the number one reason, you know, I'm able to do my job, you know, and it's proven that, you know.
Can we get on to the thing that Beth mentioned?
But it's also really important to point out, men have babies too. Men have families too.
Yeah, but the reality, unfortunately, is men don't go home and stay with their kids like women do.
Because of societal norms, because how we're socialized. And so this is where we all have a responsibility, employers, individual women, and legislators, to ask ourselves, what can we do?
Okay, so while we're changing the culture, which is not going to happen overnight, you're also doing these negotiation workshops, which I think is terrific. What's the primary mistake? I'm going to go down quickly. Women make where they need workshopping to get right? What's the primary mistake? They're not aggressive enough? They don't ask for enough? What is the problem?
No, I don't think I think we should question what we imitate. I think women should do it in their own authentic way.
But they're not doing it very well.
But I think one of the primary mistake is that women are much better advocates for other people than they are for themselves.
Okay, so
when you start asking,
how do you want your employees to approach you?
I mean, I feel like my employees can approach me very openly, but I'm a small business, so there's a lot of, you know, that's a whole different thing. Large corporations, I mean, you have to go, you know, and be very, very tactful, because a lot of women are fearful that if I speak up, am I going to lose my job, you know, and I think there's been this conditioning over time, and that's why I think these workshops are so important, and really understanding the value that you bring to the organization, and really be much more assertive about it. And then lastly, I would say that we're seeing a rapid growth in women entrepreneurs. And you know, particularly black women entrepreneurs are one of the fastest growing groups. And that's because, you know, we've hit that glass ceiling, and we're like, I know I'm not getting past it, so I'm going to have to try to make it on some other way.
Only 15 seconds left. You feel positive about the negotiation workshops?
I went to one.
You did?
Number one tip is never give a salary, an actual number of what you want. Always ask for a range. So don't get boxed into a single number. Number one tip.
She's ready for training. Megan, it's good to see you.
Jim.
Beth, good to meet you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
so
you,
much.
Jim.
Shirley.
Thank
It's great
you.
to see you as always.
Good.